from Max Wiest, associate at Maersk. Am I pronouncing it correctly? I don't think so. Growth, the venture arm of A.P. Møller Maersk, based in Copenhagen. Max, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, I'm Max. I work for Maersk Growth, and basically in one line what we do is we are how a 120-year-old shipping company partners with the world's best founders and the most innovative companies to build the next generation of the backbone of global trade. So why does it matter now? Maersk has a net zero goal by 2040, which is one of the most ambitious goals in the container logistics industry. And we have a transformation agenda from a pure shipping line to a globally integrated supply chain services provider. And for that matter, we are looking for startups and innovation that can help us achieve that roadmap, because this strategy is not only a marketing slogan for us, but it's a call to action, and we want to actively work on digitizing and decarbonizing the logistics industry together. Because also Maersk has quite a large weight in the industry. We emit over 80 million tons of CO2 every year. That's more than Denmark or Portugal. And we move almost 20% of global trade through our network. So there is a lot of weight behind, and that's also where we see value to the startups that we can give. So how do we do it? We work with startups in actually two lanes. So the first lane is venture clienting. That's basically real-world, near-term problem solving with startups through POCs. These POCs should have a clear scope, a very transparent process, and also a clear path to production if they work well. And then the second avenue is venture capital. So we invest globally, exclusively in energy transition of the shipping industry. And we don't want to only give our money. We also provide value beyond that with the huge brand, credibility, and assets in the back. And how do we invest? We invest from seed to Series B. We usually do not lead. We usually co-invest with strong financial leads. We are quite flexible in terms of structure, aim for around 2 to 10% of ownership. Sometimes we have a board observer seat, but also not a must. And our focus is global. So we think founders should come from everywhere, and there's lots of innovation opportunities from around the world. So that's also that's also why we operate globally. The current priority topics for the energy transition investments are 4. The first one is fuel alternatives. So we see methanol is already maturing. There's lots of methanol vessels on the order books, but still we are looking for solutions that can help increase the scale or lower the cost of production for low carbon methanol. But we also look at other fuels, for example, LNG, ammonia, and lots of other alternatives in that space. Then the second one is alternative energy sources. So we look at everything from electrification of batteries to next-gen power generation that can help, for example, with the propulsion of the vessels, but also with the fuel production. Then the third one, onboard carbon capture. Carbon capture in general has gotten lots of interest on the land side, but an often overlooked problem is how do we actually marinize it and make it also useful for ships? And I think it's a tremendous potential in there. So we look for startups that work on capture solutions for ships, but also look at carbon handling, port handling down the carbon value chain, also sequestration and all these solutions. And the last one, efficiency and optimization. That's basically a very large lever that can also move the needle by reducing our huge fuel bill. We spend $10 billion a year on fuel. So some percentage improvement in fuel efficiency is already giving lots of business value, but then also, of course, decarbonization value. We are a team of 18 people, all based in Copenhagen. We are VC, startup operators, Maersk operators. We have a portfolio of 40 startups that we support, and we have done 50 POCs over the past year with portfolio companies, but also with companies that we haven't invested in. So yeah, if you're building in that space, I would be very happy to talk to you. Please do not hesitate to reach out, and thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you so much, Max. I really appreciate it. Last but not least, we have Max Doyle. Max combines that hands-on maritime experience with venture capital, building Thrive Ventures as a bridge between traditional industry and the new technologies transforming it. Welcome, Max.
Thank you. You're all very lucky. Third Max in a row. I think this is... I'm excited. So Freight Ventures is a $20 million venture fund for early stage maritime and freight technologies. Now, before kind of jumping into what it is and how it all works, these are not the slides. Right, we'll have to run with it. Freight Ventures was kind of created with the principle of the fact that as an industry, supply chain takes up about 10% of global GDP. It's an enormous industry that puts it around $11-12 trillion, and it's what we kind of had felt was fairly underserved by venture capital as an industry. It's also an industry where there is a lot of push factors making companies innovate, between the advent of AI, automation, decarbonization, and as well now all of the regulatory pressures that are forcing companies to become more innovative. Oh my God. But then the last thing really that comes with that is that we felt that the best founders that are working in this industry generally came from outside it, and it's a very difficult transition. Right. I'm going to have to just run with this. I'm afraid they're not the right slides, but that's okay. Where do I come from? My family's been in ports for about 140 years. So I've worked in the business for most of my life. I started out as a port agent, then I was working on vessels, and then I was driving cranes, then I was managing terminals, trucking companies, the works, all this kind of stuff. And so what the goal was to be able to give founders that come into this industry the chance to have a little bit more legitimacy, a bit more understanding of how to actually speak to companies that are working in the industry. So the goal was to give founders to help us solve the problems that we've had ourselves. As I kind of joke with a lot of people, I'm not in this for my love of venture capital. So this is kind of the approach. How are we going about this? I'm sorry, I'm jumping around in my head as to where it was next. The approach is that we put in small checks. So it's somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000 checks, investing in pre-seed and seed stage opportunities alongside tier one investment firms. So the reason for that is because what we are providing is the ability to work with founders and say, go to the tier one investment firms and say, okay, you're generalist firms, and so I encourage all of the founders here to really try and get a really strong lead investor. And then that's where Freight Ventures comes in, is to come in and co-invest alongside these firms. One of the last things then that I would say is that where do ports come into all of this? So ports are, we're here to understand, ports are the fulcrum of all of these things. For founders, for the industry, whether it's for vessels coming into port and for coming in, and whether it's trucks and rail on the other side, and then freight forwarding systems and all of the third-party logistics that sit on top of all of that, it's really, really important the role that ports have to play. So the background that we had was that we understand all of those things because we feel all those touch points. So the final thing I'll say really of Freight Ventures is, if you want to have an understanding as to where ports connect in with the supply chain, where founders can impact the supply chain, it's a really, really good place to start. So if you're here today with an idea or an initiative that you want to work on that has something to do with ports, it's a really good starting place. and you can affect the whole supply chain from there. So thank you very much.